a very special pie recipe from a first lady. Well, from Catherine Maag, but she says it's from a first lady, so I'm going with it. I found this recipe that claims to be from Mamie Eisenhower, so I was so excited to make it for President's Day. I couldn't verify if it was hers for certain, but her pumpkin pie was super famous, so it wouldn't be a stretch to assume she had other delicious pie recipes. It was really fun to make and very unique. With a meringue base instead of a typical pie crust, it's gluten-free, and the Mocha Mousse topping makes it light as air. It's called Special Company Pie, and it's absolutely decadent. It all starts with a fluffy meringue base, so egg whites and cream of tartar whipped on high. Just be sure to follow basic meringue rules. Room temperature eggs, make sure your bowl is super clean with no fat residue, and add sugar gradually, never all at once. Whip until silky smooth with a satiny sheen and very stiff peaks. How long it takes depends on, well, a lot of factors. Mine took about 7 minutes, but I use a top-notch mixer, so don't be surprised if yours takes longer. Transfer your meringue to a pie plate and top it with chopped pecans. The recipe says to bake in a slow oven, and that might sound a little strange, but this is a very common way of referring to oven temperatures in vintage recipes. I'll make another video going into more detail about vintage oven tips, but in this case, a slow oven would mean about 200 degrees. After about an hour, your meringue should be nice and dry, ready to rest overnight. The next day, it's time to make the filling. You'll need a double boiler to melt the chocolate, then add coffee. This recipe calls for 3 tablespoons of strong coffee, so I used a packet of instant espresso and added 3 tablespoons of hot water just before adding it to the chocolate. You could totally use a shot of espresso or 3 tablespoons of very strong brewed coffee. Just make sure it's still warm and plenty strong. I was super nervous about adding water to melted chocolate, thinking it would seize, but after a few minutes of stirring, it melted into a beautiful ganache. Set the chocolate aside to cool while you whip up heavy whipping cream. If making fresh whipped cream makes you nervous, I have found that freezing the mixing bowl and the whisk really helps make sure your whipping cream will come out perfectly. Just make sure to check on it constantly so you don't overmix it into butter. Transfer the chocolate to a large mixing bowl, which may seem unnecessary since it's already in a bowl, but this gives you a chance to make sure the chocolate is cool enough that you won't melt the whipped cream when you fold it in. Gently fold the whipped cream in until it's well blended, then fill the meringue shell with your fluffy mocha mousse. I topped mine with a handful of pecans. Chill for a few hours to make sure it sets up, and then enjoy a piece of this extra special pie. It somehow manages to be both light and rich at the same time with a delicate sweetness and delightful texture. I can't thank Catherine Maag enough for sharing this historic recipe in the 1987 Rock Creek Mobile Home Community Cookbook. As always, this is not my recipe, especially not this one, and it was a great way to celebrate President's Day. So thank you, Catherine, and thank you, First Lady Mamie Eisenhower, for another delicious pie recipe. And I hope it encourages you to cook more old recipes.